So now that we understand the chord shapes and the modes which we're going to be working with to create this minor 2-5-1, we're going to go a step further, like we did in the previous lesson on major 2-5-1s, and look at some examples of vocabulary which work over this progression. Now, as I explained in the last lesson about major 2-5-1s, vocabulary is what happens when we turn all these scales and modes and arpeggios into music. And like we said before, it could be, you could draw a comparison between this and turning the alphabet and words into language. So really the only way to learn this vocabulary is by listening to and transcribing and learning to play appropriate musical examples. So with this in mind, I've prepared a number of examples of vocabulary which work over the minor 2-5-1 progression in E flat. I'm going to now demonstrate each one of these examples in the two positions of the neck we've covered with comping. And again, it's worth noting that there are notes within these vocab examples which aren't part of the modes or arpeggios that we've looked at in this lesson. They're going to use chromatics. Now obviously chromatics are notes which have to be used in a way which is controlled and understood in order to be effective. And we're going to be looking at some techniques to introduce chromatics into your playing in one of the lessons which follows this. So for now, don't worry about trying to justify them. Just try and get them under your fingers and start to hear what they sound like so that we've got a context for learning more about them later on. Also, when you learn these lines, you might feel like you're playing licks over the chords, but by practicing the lines repeatedly for a couple of months, they're going to become really natural to you, and they'll get under your hands, under your fingers, and in your ears. And when this happens, you're gonna find that you'll be able to start recalling them at will, and they'll just start to come out naturally whenever you're improvising on your instrument. They're going to become internalized, and that's really the goal of practicing them repeatedly. And it really does happen if you stick with it. And finally, when you start to become familiar with the lines, a great way to keep your practice interesting and keep progressing through the couple of months when you're going to be practicing them is to play them in different keys. Try and work them out in, say, round the circle of fifths and in different areas of the neck also. And whenever you're playing them, really try and copy what I'm doing, not just in terms of the notes I'm playing, but in terms of the articulation, the picking patterns I'm using. Really try and look at them in the full musical context which they're presented. Okay, so here's lick number 1, or line number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we'll try that similar lick, or the same lick, in the higher position. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to play lick number 2 in the lower position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And once more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And now in the higher position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Once more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now for lick number 3 in the lower position. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now in the higher position. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for lick number 4 in the lower position. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for that same lick in the higher position. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and now finally for lick number 5 in the lower position. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's try that same lick in the higher position. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once more. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are the 5 licks for the minor 251. Hopefully you'll be able to draw a comparison between those and the licks that we did in the previous lesson, lesson number 6 for the major 251, and you'll see that they're actually based on each other. They're very similar. It would be very helpful for you to draw comparisons between the two and see what notes you have to change to affect the difference between the two progressions. So if you could do that, and always pay attention whenever you're practicing again to your time feel, and the accenting of the offbeat is very important. Okay, so enjoy your practice, and I'll see you in the next lesson.